What's up, everyone? It's Kenny here. I thought I will share one of the powerful techniques. It's a framework and a model that managers actually use in deciding how to grow the organization. So this is very good when you are faced with the challenge of it will help you with the thinking of which options or which direction to take when you are faced with either your services or products. You are at a particular point in time and you want to decide whether you will go for selling more of this product or you will go for trying to sell different products altogether. So I will be doing this via using a fictional company as usual, and this company is called Team Masters, and Mark is the business development manager that is trying to help this organization to grow. So let's go through scenario one. Mark is running this Team Masters, is trying to understand how to grow the sale of this tea for the company Team Masters. Let's say in the past few years we have observed that the tea itself, and this is being sold in an area called Zanin, and the tea actually has got recurring business. In other words, there's customers that are actually buying again and again, and therefore it only means that we have validated the market that the tea actually is the product that they want. So now we need to think about what's the next step from here. So on scenario one, I will be proposing the first option. When you know that your product has been validated, there's a group of customers that actually want it, and you see that through the sales records that there's a recurring business. We call it market penetration. Maybe you have heard the term market penetration, so today I'll be breaking it down. So market penetration only means you are selling the same product and services to the same target market segments, basically. So this is the lowest risk. I'll be presenting about 4 options that you can take with your product if you want to know how to grow the business. So the first one is market penetration, and why we say it's low risk is because you are still selling to the same market segments that you know, and also you are selling the same products. So the risk exposure is very low in this one, because you know you are good in doing the same product, which is the tea, and then we know also the retailers in Zanin, we know how they want sales documents to be presented. You know how they want the tender system to be presented, for example. That's why, by extension, market penetration is the lowest risk and is the first option that I advise most of my clients. Let's say a second scenario where the product is showing potential, but the sales are not growing, and actually they've been shrinking. And when you start to look further, it's possible that the market is too small. Maybe the Zanin doesn't have enough tea drinkers, for example, or the retailers in Zanin cannot grow your product. So what do we do then? We go for market development. And what does market development mean? Market development just means that you are selling the same tea, which is the same products, to a different market. And how do you recognize that is a different market? You can move away from retailers, or you can move away from the segment, which is Zanin. You can actually go to Polokwane, for example, or you can say, no, I'm going to government institutions, where hospitals, prisons, and then, so that means you are actually still pushing the same product, but to a different segment of the market. So we call it market development. So the risk, as you can imagine, just grows from market penetration, because you'll be dealing with a new segment. And you must remember, every time you are approaching a new market segment, you don't know how they deal, you don't know how they close deals, for example, you don't know how they prefer. There's this unwritten expectations from these new market segments. They've got their own needs. For example, the formality of you presenting the sales documents and how you actually close the deal might be way different from the previous one, which is the retailer. And then I want to talk about scenario 3. Let's say Team Masters, Mark, when he looks at the records, you can see that actually the sales of tea was bad for the past 3 years or more, or even the last 24 months. He says, no, man, there's no way, there's something wrong here. The symptoms, or maybe how you're gathering that data, is that some of the customers are actually churning out from your product, which means they're just canceling And then some of them, they try your tea, but they don't come back again. So Mark starts to think maybe the tea is just bad, the product is bad, or there's just too much competition in the area. So what are you faced with now? You're faced with looking at doing a new product. So we'll be looking at the next scenario. So Mark, in scenario 3, decides to do product development. So this option, the strategy, is called product development, because he decides now to say, he talks to the development team to say, let's redo this tea, let's put some herbal extract, let's actually innovate on this tea because it hasn't been doing well. It's possible, as you might know, when you're running a business, that you might have a product that you had different assumptions about the market, but you find that by the time you put it on the market, actually no one actually wants it. Or as we said, people are not actually having recurring sales on this. So product development, all it means is that you are creating a new product or service and you are still selling it to the same market segments that you used to sell to. So we call it product development. That's now according to Ansoff. So I will call this option 3 in your disposal when you are faced with this challenge. Let's say the tea is still not performing good, and there's no evidence that this group of customers that are actually doing recurring sales. There's no need. People are trying your tea, but actually no one returns. And also you're suspecting also that the market is not responding well, or it's either the market is too small or competition is just too high for this product. Therefore, you cannot capture value. You're just eroding value with this product. It's eating onto your revenue, and there's just decline. Then you're presented with option 4. I call this diversification according to Ansoff. So diversification, all it simply means is that you will be now producing new products and services, and you'll be selling them to a new market segment as well altogether. So diversification just means you are shifting, you are pivoting. So this scenario has now forced Mark to say to the product development team, let's actually go to some coffee beans, or let's go to something different, and we will be selling this to different segments of the market, to market segments. So diversification it exposes you to higher risks because you are actually producing a new product or service. In this case, we'll be going to coffee beans, which is an untested market and it might not be received well. So that exposes you to high risk. And number 2, you will be establishing another segment, target segment as well, which you've never engaged before, or maybe you've engaged them, but you're all together. So this is shifting together. So my advice with diversification, let it be your last option when option 1, market penetration, option 2, market development, and then option 3, product development, and then option 4, diversification. You should do when you think there's no prospects of growing your business with the other options, because this is high risk, as you can imagine, because there's a lot of unknowns in this one.